In the 80s, the turbo was in fashion, and you had to say it in a certain way.
The Turbo Zone.
Turbo power.
Mitsubishi Turbos.
New turbo power.
The Turbo Boost.
Super Turbo Train.
Twin turbos.
But then the 90s came, and the turbo kind of disappeared. But then in 93, Fiat released the Punto GT Turbo. So what Fiat actually did was to kill off the Uno Turbo, drag the engine across the workshop and fire it into the Punto. They added some headlight washers to the halogen headlights, some GT badges, and bish, bash, boost, that's done. Inside, Fiat plastered GT at all sorts of angles on the seats, just in case they decided to mount them to the roof lining. And that's exactly where you find your clock. What a classic. You get electric windows, a sporty steering wheel, and oh, a boost gauge for your turbo. This Punto started life with a little T2 turbo and a modest 130 horsepower. It was more of a darty town car with cheap thrills and a hooligan machine. But since its running gear was practically straight from the Uno Turbo, hardly any of these hot hatches were running standard power, especially when a Seb chip and a few bolt-ons can net you 170 horsepower. Seb is a chip tuning company that's well known within the Punto community. This is a Zeb 4. It uses the fuel injectors from a Vauxhall Calibra, the turbo from a Nissan 300 ZX, and the brakes from a Fiat 20-valve coupe, and that's enough stopping power to slow this 220 horsepower featherweight. But there is quite a bit of turbo lag. You see, this T25 turbo is actually a hybrid, and it means it's had bigger inners fitted, effectively making it a T28. You have to wait until around 5,000 RPM for the exhaust gases from this little 1.4 litre engine to spin the blades fast enough to hit full boost. But when it does, it will hold 1.5 bar of boost to the 7.5 grand limiter on a standard engine with just a fast road cam. The Turbo Zone. These cars aren't renowned for their handling, nor are they raved about in the same way as other hot hatches this period. Yes, they weigh the same as a packet of crisps because they're made out of recycled Coke cans, and if you stack it, you better have life insurance. But there is something about it.
I've owned the car for about 7 years, and yeah, it's pretty much took me about 7 years to get it to where it is today. I had the Vectra GSI, and then I swapped it for the Punto, and then I bought the Subaru, and then regretted getting rid of the red Punto, so then I went and bought that one. Yeah, I would say this is more exciting than a newer car to drive. You just feel more of the road.
I think I know what Paul's saying. Let me try to explain. The steering loads up hard when cornering, and the wheel vibrates and moves around in your hand. Even the gear stick's having a dance. The French manufacturers would have tried to engineer this out. The Japanese would have been X-raying the steering column, and the Germans would have flat out refused to put this into production. And that's character.
Turbo power.